Have you noticed the level of change going on in the world right now is downright astounding? Things are happening right before our very eyes that will have ramifications for decades, maybe even centuries to come. Recently, there's been big news headlines about the production cut announced by OPEC, 2 million barrels of oil per day cut. It was a major slap in the face to the United States of America. But why? Why is that such a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because a lot of people are afraid, very afraid, and very justifiably afraid that Saudi Arabia and OPEC is beginning to align themselves more with the Eastern countries, more with Russia, China, the BRICS nations. What could the ramifications be if that is indeed the case? The ramifications could be major, severe, negative for the United States. Let's talk about it right now. If you're the type of person who likes to know more, likes to dive into the deep end of the pool, please know you are always welcome here in Ron's Basement. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, let me know what you think. I'm always open to new ideas, hearing different perspectives on these subjects, so please leave a comment in the comment section. You can turn on the bell if you want to be notified every time I put out new videos. Now let's get back to the pertinent information. So it's important we understand a couple things about oil before we dive into why this could be such a devastating move for the United States of America. Number one, oil is the lifeblood of the world economy. Energy runs everything. Nothing else really compares in the modern day and age. Sure, information is important, but without energy, nothing happens, period. Number two, the U.S. dollar has dominated world trade in oil since 1971. That's when Nixon initiated the petrodollar system. You probably heard of that, right? The petrodollar. We've all heard of it, but we don't really understand what it means. Basically, from what I understand, they went to Saudi Arabia back then because the U.S. was in a tight financial situation and said to Saudi Arabia that if you want to trade oil and really if you want to continue to exist as the country you are right now, you are going to trade all of your oil in U.S. dollars. In return for that, we'll give you a place to put your U.S. dollars, which is primarily U.S. treasuries, and very importantly, we will defend you. That's how Saudi Arabia, back in the early 70s, became our ally. Then many and all of the OPEC countries joined them and exclusively sold oil for dollars. Now, it's also important that we remember that right at that same time, 1971, that's when Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. Remember the good old days when the United States of America was based on gold? Well, Nixon ruined that in 1971. And with the initiation of the petrodollar, the dollar then got all of its value from oil. And this arrangement, it served us well, right? Over the last decades, it allowed the U.S. dollar to become the dominant currency in the world. The USA and the dollar dominated the world. But suddenly, in just recent times, the world is getting tired of the shenanigans, the financial mismanagement, the monetary mismanagement that occurred within the United States government and at other leadership levels. So now we're seeing a split in the world between the East and the West. And when recently Saudi Arabia announced that they were going to go with OPEC and cut oil production, it was a slap directly in the face of the United States government. As a matter of fact, our beloved President Joe Biden had even traveled all the way to Saudi Arabia to talk directly to their leadership just a few months ago. begging them to keep oil production high. That would help the United States with their fight on inflation, and it might just help Joe and the Democrats in the midterm elections, which are coming up in just a few short weeks. Well, the response from OPEC and the Saudis was to basically slap him in the face, come out with these major oil cuts, and the White House was infuriated. They've come out and said basically that OPEC is now siding with Russia. People are calling for punishment to Saudi Arabia because they didn't do just what the United States said. They were maybe looking out for their best interest, right? Like most countries you would think would and should do, but the White House is angry. But do you think the United States can really punish Saudi Arabia or even sanction them? We know how the sanctions worked against Russia, right? Remember the ruble is rubble and the Putin price hike? Well, that didn't work out so well. So if we sanction or punish the Saudi Arabians, they could move away from using the dollar to trade oil. If that were to occur, that could be devastating, absolutely horrific for the value of the US dollar. Interest rates could skyrocket. It could cause economic calamity, not only in the United States, but throughout the Western world. And there's a couple almost humorous points we can bring up. There's a great meme of Joe Biden over in Saudi Arabia talking to their leadership saying, hey, please pump more oil, pump more oil. And the Saudi prince saying back to Joe, I thought you were going green. Now, another humorous or almost ironic point is that the United States ourselves, we have plenty of energy available domestically right here. But for some reason, even though we're desperate for this low-cost oil and energy, our government won't allow our energy companies to drill the oil and to take it out of the ground. And we aren't political or anything, but remember, one of the first things Joe Biden did when he got into office was shut down some major energy project initiatives. Are you starting to see that it feels like the East and maybe even Saudi Arabia, who's starting to lean more toward the East, like they're holding all the trump cards right now? We're kind of desperate for this low-cost energy, and we have Saudi Arabia who's sitting in the cat seat, able to control how this whole situation plays out. The petrodollar, which at one point was an asset to our country, helped us grow, now has become a major, serious risk factor for the well-being of the United States financial system. And as the world continues to separate and countries become more nationalistic, and you can't really blame countries for looking out for their own best interests, that's what the United States has done for decades and decades, it becomes a very dicey situation. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. One thing for sure, I'll be here for you through it all. I always appreciate you joining me here in Ron's Basement. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And until next time, you, yes you, you be well.